Hey, what's going on, everybody? Paul from hashtag. And look, we got Tommy with us. It's been a hot minute since we've seen Tommy over on hashtag. His tailgate talk has been taking a little bit of an off-season break. But hey, breaking news is breaking news. So let's get right into it, Tommy. Hey, Cole Beasley given permission to seek a trade from the Buffalo Bills. Odd timing. Everybody's at the scouting combine, right? So kind of odd timing here, but what does this tell you about the 2022 Buffalo Bills and how they plan on attacking this offseason?
That tells me that they were going to move on with him anyways. I think they granted that mighty quick. I think they were. I think what happened last season and you know with the off-season distractions or whatever you want to call it, I think a lot had to do with that too and that decision. You know, to be okay with this, and I think they were going to move on with Cole. To be honest with you, either way. So, it's time, and it just Cole didn't seem his self this season. I don't think he was happy in Buffalo, to be honest with you. When he started talking,
there was a lot going on there, Tommy. You know, like
no, there was.
He was vocal. He's vocal about the COVID stuff, which, by the way, they've dropped all those COVID protocols at this point. So
they did.
It is returning back to normal life in NFL circles, right? That's a big thing.
It is, but he also felt like fans were booing him, right?
Sure.
Even though they weren't. You know, so it was like. Once he did that, I kind of felt like maybe he was trying to right there kind of moving on. You know, he didn't want to be here. I could be wrong. I could be seeing it wrong, but I kind of feel like Buffalo needed to move on anyways. I didn't see like the players kind of backing him either. You know, Jerry Hughes kind of got into it with him a little bit. So it was a weird locker room kind of things maybe with him, but either way, I think it's time to move on, and there is guys out there that could fill that spot, man.
Well, and the truth is, right, Cole Beasley's entering age 33, right? This season, he would go from being, 12, 14 targets a game till back-to-back 2 targets a game, right? So it was a real hot and cold season for him. And if Buffalo's looking to move on, right, you're going to free up depending on if he's traded or if he's released, right? And when that all happens, some dollars are shifted around. He's owed like a $500,000 roster bonus. He's got like $500,000 in in-game bonuses. The roster bonus, depending on if he's dealt or if he's released, money could shift either way on that. But effectively, you're looking at a team, if they wanted to trade for Cole Beasley, he's going to get a 33-year-old slot receiver for $4.9 million. And to Buffalo, right, as far as Buffalo's concerned, they'll be saving about $6.1 million if they were to either release or trade him. So you definitely understand where Buffalo's coming from here, because you have Stephon Diggs, you have Gabe Davis, and Cole Beasley, and that's kind of the end of your list for your wide receiver room right now. So while they are definitely looking to sort of bring some life into that slot receiver position, I definitely understand them maybe going to Cole. And I mean, these conversations normally happen because either one, the player is unhappy, or two, somebody went to him and said, Cole, you're probably making a little more money than you should. You're not going to be here if we can't lower your contract down, and come to him about a pay cut. The Bills did that with Star Lotulelei. They restructured out. They've done it with a few players, Mario Addison, right? So you have to think like maybe that was the conversation and how the Buffalo got there. That is speculation at this point. But it does make you think like Buffalo might have come to him saying, hey, listen, Cole, it's time to, you didn't produce on this level. We're going to need a pay cut. We're $6 million over the salary cap. Like, here's the thing. You trade or cut Cole Beasley, you're flush to the cap again. You're good. You're good.
Is that 100%?
You need. Right.
100%. And like you said about the age thing, by the way, that has something to factor into it. And the yards after catch this season was just not, he didn't produce a lot after catch. He that's not the type of receiver he is. But Josh will miss him. I will say, I was a Cole Beasley fan. He was reliable when his number was called. So, but the yards after catch, I thought, got worse as he was here in Buffalo. So like you said, man, the cap space is the number one thing. And there's going to be some moves, I think, by the way, other than Cole, that maybe some Bills fans won't like. That he's going to, we have to do. So
You know,
he's
it's
going to be
so
one.
funny to me, right, Tommy? Because we see if you only were to pay attention to Twitter, Twitter says that Buffalo is trading for Saquon Barkley, or Buffalo is trading for Christian McCaffrey. I just want to remind people there's 29 other teams in the NFL.
Right,
Not everything is with the Giants or the Panthers. Okay. Like I
right,
understand there's relationships there, and relationships are important to transactions in the NFL. But Gettleman was with the Giants for a couple years, and Bean worked under him, and they never made any traction. Right. So what's to
right.
say that Schoen going to the Giants is going to be any different? I mean,
Yeah,
they're pulling from the same
yeah.
tree, right? Like, but I will say that I do see a lot of comments in the chat talking about Isaiah McKenzie, saying, "Well, Isaiah McKenzie will finally have a role." Isaiah McKenzie's had his snaps decrease significantly each of the last 2 seasons. So is this an opportunity for him? Is he going to come back on, again, another close to league minimum deal? Or is it time that he finally shops his wares somewhere else? If you're Buffalo, are you interested in Isaiah McKenzie, knowing that Bees is kind of likely not going to be here?
See, I'm a McKenzie fan. I like McKenzie. He's still young. And listen, man, if he's willing to play for candy, have him back, right? Because that's what he said a year ago, right? He come back for candy, right? Does he still feel that same way? Because honestly, if he came back at a team-friendly deal, yeah, man, he knows the offense. He knows Josh. I think Josh has faith in him. Why not bring him back on, let's say, a 2-year deal if it's a team-friendly deal, with incentives, right? So if you do this, you get this, bonus or whatever like that. I'd be cool with that. And then you draft a guy in the draft in, let's say, the 4th round that maybe could take over Isaiah and moving forward after year 2, right? Something like that. I'd be cool with that. Now, if Isaiah's trying to get some money out there, which I don't blame him, then yeah, I would let McKenzie go at that point, because now it's about dollars and cents, right?
Well, I mean, Tommy, you were a big proponent of Marquez Stevenson when he was drafted. You love the kid, and you held the candle for him the whole time he was on IR, right? The whole time. You're like, no, this kid's going to be legit. And then we get to the playoffs, and we don't see either McKenzie or Stevenson touch the ball in the return game, right? So there, we're watching Micah Hyde back there returning kicks. Don't you think that at some point you have to look at that return game and say, maybe we can get some production out of the wide receiver that's also going to be filling that slot receiver role? Because, I mean, the fact is you're wasting roster spots by keeping a guy who's just a return guy.
You could, but we didn't do that with Roberts. And everybody loved the fact that we had Andre Roberts, right? And Andre Roberts wasn't part of the offense. I mean, if you want to be real,
they did try.
Well, yeah, and you saw what happened, right? So,
I know.
But my point is, we all were cool with Andre Roberts being just that extra roster guy that wasn't part of the offense, strictly kick returner, punt returner. So Marquez Stevenson, I still have faith in. He was a 6th-round pick. It's not like, oh my God, 2nd round, he's a bust. He's a 6th-round pick, man. I just think he went through his rookie struggles,
right?
In that, and then mind you, coming off an injury, week 14, he got put in the game. Give him a little chance, guys, on that. He has electric speed, and if he's not the answer, who cares? 6th-round pick. But no, I think we need, if McKenzie's not the guy, we need to go out in free agency and get a veteran guy, maybe give him like a 1-year deal and draft a receiver, man.
And there's a lot of guys in free agency that kind of make a lot of sense. That, I mean, similar dollar, right? But that's the problem in free agency. Buffalo's always never really had the upper hand in free agency. This year is different. Players are going to really want to come and play in this offense. Granted, it's a new coordinator, right? It is Ken Dorsey, but the draw of Josh Allen, I think you're finally going to see in that receiver room. Buffalo's kind of been able to be a little bulletproof in the wide receiver room. You got Emmanuel Sanders, right? Who came here to ring chase because he saw the potential. We don't know if we're going to see him back. I'd kind of be surprised if we saw him back, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But there's other players out there. Jamison Crowder, granted, he has had his injury struggles. He's only 29, but he's a great veteran slot receiver, right? Like there's a lot of guys out there. And I think there's one that names were circling a lot, Tommy, And everybody's talking about Cordero Patterson. He is going to be a
Yes.
free agent in this offseason. And he was electric for Atlanta. But here's a guy who bounced around between multiple organizations.
Yes.
And the Patriots just happened to lose almost every running back on their team and said, he's fast enough, I guess. And he made a career out of it now. The last couple seasons, he's been electric out of the backfield. Does Cordell Patterson actually supplement a replacement for Cole Beasley?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brung that up, because earlier you mentioned the McCaffrey thing. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, Paul, I still think there's going to be a big trade for a running back. I personally think that. And I know you mentioned Barkley and McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. So McCaffrey's a little bit like Cordell, right? Mm-hmm. Except for the hefty contract. So you could, let's say if it is Cordell, you could use him with Devin Singletary, not so many carries, but mix it up and have him as a slot guy, kind of like jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind that at all. Right. Cordell, he has the speed, he has the hands. You could trust him as a running back. Obviously, we've seen that.
He's a great return guy.
Yeah,
he fits the need,
and a great return guy. So he's 100%. So I would be all good for that, depending on what he wants. Mm-hmm. Once again,
Yeah, and I think that's where, you take a look at what's going on in the offseason, and there's a lot of fun players out there. There's Rashad Higgins, who's kind of kicked around with Cleveland, but at times he's electric. He does have trouble hanging on to the football. I'm not going to lie about that. The Bills could go big swinging and look at, Christian Kirk as a name. Josh Allen was just on vacation with Christian Kirk. I have a feeling Kirk's going to want probably more money than he's worth. Age 26, just coming off a rookie deal. I would want to get the hell out of Arizona if I were him too, because Kyler Murray just looks like a walking landmine. To an organization. So I'd want to get the hell out of Dodge if I were him. But I think the timing of all this is really, really interesting because it is during the scouting combine, and Buffalo owns a late pick. And what can you get with a late first round pick? And go get yourself a slot receiver if that's what you really want. Do you think Buffalo is going to push the chips into the middle of the table and invest in the offense in that first round? Or do you think they are just going to say, nope, we're going to keep investing youth into the defense?
I still think they're going to go defense. I do. It's kind of been McDermott's theme since after the 2018. It's been all defense pretty much.
You're right.
So, and defense is really, if we're going to be real, that's what cost us, right? Mm-hmm. The last playoff game. We hate to bring that up, guys, but that's what cost us. And of course the play calling. But we do need defensive tackle help. I don't think Starr's going to be on this team. So, yeah, I would for sure. Mind you, Trey White may not even be back for the first couple weeks. A cornerback is desperately needed. And once again, the cap right now, we're negative. So who are we going to get in free agency? Who can we afford? You got to start building up that defense. You got to start getting corners. I felt like we whiffed on that last season. And look, Trey went down and kind of hurt us, right? Especially in that Chiefs game. So,
well, I'm going to be honest with you, Tommy. The cornerback position has literally been rent a center for Buffalo, right? Yeah. Like it is just you get what you get, right? You're just buying off a finger hut for all of those, for all those corners, because Levi Wallace, free, pending free agent. Dane Jackson, still, you have him under team control for a while, but this team has never really been afraid to bet on themselves finding corners, right? Like that's never really been the thing. But you do have Isaiah Hodges that I think everybody forgets about. He's been basically completely ineffective for you for 2 years. He's battled injury issues. Not exactly a guy that you see in the slot, but he does, I would say that he's as good a slot. What's the best way for me to phrase this? He would be as effective out of the slot in his peak as Juju was in Pittsburgh, because of that real tall, lanky guy. It brings a different definition to what you see as a slot receiver. I think a lot of people see slot receivers as undersized guys, and you kind of forget that there's only one player in NFL history who's 5'8" or less who has had, more than 800 receiving yards in back-to-back seasons, Cole Beasley, right? So what he did at his size was unprecedented, but he is getting older, and it's probably time to move on. And you just have to look at where you're going as an organization and say, do we push, if we're going to be paying Josh can we afford to shop in free agency? Right? Because Josh is just going to be getting more expensive. Can you really afford to fill this need in free agency? I guess is a better question.
Right. I mean, like this year, I think we're we're not really going free. He said it. Listen, Brandon Beane came out, said right at his press conference, I don't expect anything huge in free agency. Right. We're like, we need to pay our, and the way that it's been going with Brandon Beane is kind of pay our own guys. So far since he's been here, it hasn't been really big free agent shopping. That's not, doesn't seem like that's his thing, which is fine. Pay your guys, draft your guys, pay your guys, they earn it. So I want to, that's why I'm thinking more of a trade. It seems like all the big moves we've made since Brandon been here has been trade. Diggs, right? So that's, I could see that happening. But as far as free agency goes, I wouldn't expect anything big, man. I just don't see we can afford it right now. I think they're going to do a lot of cuts, a lot of restructuring, and as far as filling Cole's spot, I think it's going to be like a 1 or 2 year deal on a veteran, and they're going to draft somebody in like the mid rounds, 4th round, 5th round.
Yeah, and to go back to something that you had said earlier, there were times where I think offensive system, I really do feel like Dable and McDermott kind of battled the whole season, right? Because there were times where this team just ran into identity issues on offense where you couldn't really tell what they were trying to do. You knew they were trying to score, but the methods to which they were using just didn't seem to make a ton of sense. And Beasley seemed to be a little bit of a product of that, right? Because he'd run into some games where he was targeted 14 times, and then the next 4 games combined, he had like 8 targets, right? Like, it's at some point, those high level athletes, they want to be involved. Yeah, you're winning and that's great. But let's be honest, this last 2021 was a bumpy season at best, right? Yeah. There were times where Buffalo looked and you're like, they might not make the playoffs. Like, you're looking around and you're like,
yo, 100%. Dude, I mentioned, I said, man, 2021 was 2020 for the defense. Yep. Right? Remember 2020 defense, everybody was saying, what's going on? And remember, the defense was saying, we need to find our identity. And me as a fan, I'm like, it's the same defense. So 2021 happens. The defense is back, and now the offense is going, we need to find our identity. Are we are we going to run the ball more? Are we going to pass? I mean, it's just like, so it was just really weird, like you said, a roller coaster of a season 2021 was, man, especially for the offense.
So Jessica Tennis asked, what do you think we'd be able to get a 3rd round pick for Cole Beasley? Truthfully speaking, I don't think Cole's deal is even tradable, right? He's 33. $4.9 million. If you look at the free agent market per year, there's some nice wide receivers out there. So it's going to be a really flush market. So what I mean by that is you're going to see the big contracts, and then there's going to be a lot of talent at pretty affordable prices. And you're probably going to be right around that range. So do you want, would you rather have a 29-year-old Jamison Crowder or a 33-year-old Cole Beasley to play the same position? It's, these are the things you have to be concerned about. And the fact is, why give up a resource for Cole Beasley when you can just wait for him to hit free agency, right? Yeah. Like, it's, if you're a team that's doing what you can to maybe hold on to your quarterback, like if you're Minnesota, right, and you're looking at Kirk Cousins, you're like, man, listen, Kurt's getting real expensive, but we got to make our shot. We got to take our shot. Maybe Cole Beasley for a 6th round pick is your shot. I don't see it, but maybe there's a team that feels that way. I just don't really see that Cole's deal is tradable. I just struggle to see how you'd be able to move him.
Yeah, that's it. It's all you hit the nail on the head. It would have to be a team that's desperate and stupid. And there is teams out there, by the way, that are desperate and stupid.
Yeah, there are desperate and stupid teams. That is, fact.
Don't be shocked. I mean, if a team would do a trade, but I could see, like you said, more than likely it'll be a situation where they're going to try, but it's not going to happen, and they're going to wind up cutting them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. If you're looking, because the NFL scouting combine is on. So if I'm going to give you one guy to pay attention to, just so we could talk about this and just put it on the map, it's Jahan Dotson from Penn State. A little bit of a taller frame for what a lot of people consider slot receivers, 5'11", but I don't know if there's a shiftier receiver in this draft to me. Again, not the biggest of guys at 5'11", 184, but he's fast. He'll absolutely be available at the back end of the first round. And he is probably the biggest instant start wide receiver at the slot position in this draft, right? So to me, that's what I'm looking for. If Buffalo were to draft a wide receiver, I want it to be Jahan Dotson, because I think you've got enough perimeter guys. You've got Diggs, you've got Davis, you're still holding on to Hodges. And that's all you got. That's where you are. Isaiah McKenzie is a free agent. Marquez Stevenson, you have no earthly idea what he can bring to this offense, because he didn't actually get to practice much with this team at all. When you're on IR, you don't get to practice with the team. You're on injured reserve. You don't get to practice with the team. You get to be in film and stuff like that, so you can learn, but there's a lot that you learn from putting boots on the ground versus watching film in the film room, So to me, Jahan Dotson's the guy out of Penn State. I absolutely love him. And he fills that initial slot receiver role. But I have to disagree. I really do believe that that Buffalo is going to go offense in the first round if they hold on to the pick. I'm not sold they hold on to the pick at all, Tommy. I'm just going to be honest with you, because Buffalo's had that tendency to go defense, and just hammer that. You're losing too many resources at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, once again, though, we're towards the end of the first round, so it's kind of almost like close to a second round pick. Right. So you know how that goes, right? And I thought last season if Najee were to drop, I I was all up for that, but I wasn't willing to trade up either at the same time.
Right.
But I still don't think so, man. And also, honestly, it all depends what happens with free agency. It really does. Yeah. If they go and pick up a Cordell Patterson, no, I don't think for sure they're not going offense, Right. So it just depends on what they do. But I really feel like they got to address that defensive line, bro.
Well, let me ask you a dangerous question here, Tommy. The rumors are circulating that Rob Gronkowski is going to be a Buffalo Bill. Right? Know. Listen, if we're talking about it, you're not taking Knox off the field, right? So that means you're going to be running a lot of 2 tight end sets, which means you're not running a slot receiver, right? You're running 2 tight end sets. You're not running a slot receiver. So does signing Gronk give you the ability to be a little more patient in your slot receiver position, at least for this year?
Yeah, it could. And mind you, he's still a very good blocker, by the way.
He's excellent blocker. Excellent.
Yeah. So 1-year deal is what it would probably be, guys. I agree. It could buy you time. It could buy you a season, another season to go out and really find your guy, or see if maybe Marquez is that answer.
There it was. I knew it was only going to take you 20 minutes to admit Marquez Stevenson is the future of the slot receiver position. I knew you were going to do it.
I will say one guy that's out there that I like too. And I'm not sure if he plays slot or not, but Calvin Austin.
Oh yeah.
It has a real shifty
guy.
Man.
Yeah, real shifty
guy has good hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Buffalo was really tied to him at the Senior Bowl. Like there was a lot of news coming out from the Senior Bowl. And that's where Buffalo does a lot of heavy lifting, is at the Senior Bowl. They pay a ton of attention to what happens at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
And Buffalo was really linked to Calvin Austin a lot at the Senior Bowl.
And he could slip into the early second. And I could possibly see them taking an Austin, maybe trading back up, and in an early second round to grab him if he slips. But I can't see him taking in the first.
I'd be surprised if Calvin Austin went above the third round. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I really do. I like him. Like, I'm not saying I don't like him. I like him a lot, but he feels third round to me. It's a niche position that second, those players fit in, right? That slot receiver position is not always very coveted. While the NFL is getting faster, right? So I'm not going to say that they're not. Linebackers are getting smaller and faster.
Correct.
Wide receivers are getting shorter and faster, right? Like if you look at the 40 times at the combine this year, like there was like 8 guys that put up like 4 times, like that just at the wide receiver position. Those guys can straight fly, but to play the slot receiver, it's not about that straight line speed. It is about how can you read coverage off the linebacker? Can you get open in a phone booth? Like it is that quick twitch. It's not necessarily that long speed. So the 40 time is a real sexy thing to get attached to. And people see small guys in 40 times and think, oh, wow, they'd be a great slot receiver. That's not always what it takes. That's not, those two things they're not always equatable. But this is the fun time of year, right? Absolutely love this time of year. And it's been a while since we've had a player ask to seek a trade in Buffalo and anybody cared.
Yeah. I would say the last player was the offensive lineman that we wind up cutting. I forget his name, for Cincinnati Bengals. Now he's on the Bengals team. It's Quentin Spain. He was kind of the last disgruntled Bills player, let's say disgruntled, if that's a word, that wanted out. So I would say it was Spain, and that was kind of a big deal in a way because we just signed him to a big contract. He really kind of was our best lineman, besides Deion Dawkins going into that season. So. Yeah. Other than that, no. Usually players are pretty happy here. They want to be in Buffalo, want to play for Josh. But like I said, a lot happened in the offseason. I think it kind of had that unfortunate for Cole, and it happens.
It's a business, and Cole, I think Cole is smart to ask to seek a trade. Because the fact of the matter is he's going to be a free agent in a few weeks. If the Bills don't restructure his deal for him to take a pay cut, he has to agree to that. Let's be clear, right? He has to agree to take a pay cut. But this just gives him the jump on being able to talk to teams, right? Because if he talks to teams and says, hey, I'm available, they're like, listen, we like you at $3 million. We don't like you at $4.9 million. That at least gives him an idea of where he could go, right? And who's really interested, and it gives him ideas as to what to do in a couple of weeks, because I would just be surprised to see him in Bills uniform. I think Buffalo's probably made it pretty clear. If he isn't a Bills uniform, it won't be on this contract.
That's true. Well, remember too, though. I mean, I know you said about the contract, and it's very possible that no one's going to jump on it, but there could be a team that is willing to take on the contract if we take on a contract. You know how that works. So it's very possible that if we trade Cole, it could, maybe there's a player involved. Maybe we send something. And it's like a kind of a package deal, so everybody wins on the contracts. And I'm telling you, I do see a trade. I see a trade coming in the offseason here. And that will be the splash move that we make. And then I do see some surprise cuts. Mitch Morse is on my list of surprise cuts, by the way. I could definitely see Bates going to the center position. I kind of feel like they were grooming Bates to go there anyways. And it would make sense. I'll be honest with you guys. I know a lot of fans want Bates back, but if you want to clear up that cap, that's a big number.
That's a big one. And sitting where they are in the draft, the truth is you could get a starting center at 25. That's not crazy. That's pretty usual, right?
Yeah.
You can get yourself a starting center and at 25 or at 50. You'd have to go up a little bit in the second round. You have to go up a little bit, but it's very, very doable. Well, Tommy, I think we got to wrap this up. Thank you to Sean and Mr. Rogers Homes for sponsoring our immediate live. Thanks for being available, Tommy. We've never, I don't think it's ever been you and me before, right?
Maybe once. I think we went on once. Maybe.
Right. Hey, it's good to see your face, brother. Good to see your face.
All right, brother.
All right. Talk to everybody soon. Don't forget, if you haven't found us on Twitter, it is #2point. Thanks a lot, Mario, for that. You can, of course, find us on Instagram, the website, htagsports.com. And if you want to become a Patreon member, go ahead and click the link down in the description. You become a Patreon member, Patreon content. You get all that early, except for stuff like this. We got to give it to you live when we get it. Thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great one.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.